Why Alex Karaban being snubbed for preseason All-American is everything that's wrong about college basketball.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, I'd like to take a quick moment to ask for a small favor. If you're enjoying the content, please take a second to subscribe and follow wherever you listen to audio versions. It really helps the show grow, and I genuinely appreciate your support. Every follow, subscription, download not only helps build our UConn community, but also generates more revenue for UConn NAL initiatives with Bleeding Blue for Good. And also, we are donating 10% of all revenue to our fantastic Husky Ticket Project. I'm proud to sponsor with them, or partner with them to help send kids to games and make a real difference in underserved communities. So thank you to them for being a part of also the Locked On UConn community. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay. I am not happy with what happened yesterday for a couple different reasons. And we're going to bring in our Tuesday and Thursday co-host, Dan Meehan, right now so he can listen to me rant about this, and then we'll bring him in for some questions. Dan, welcome to the show. Before I ask you a question, I just want to talk about this because this has been bothering me about college basketball for multiple years, and Dan Hurley has talked about this on multiple occasions. Alex Karaban being snubbed for preseason All-American honors is not just an oversight. It's a symptom of a much larger problem in how we view and promote players in the game. So let's be really clear about this. Alex Karaban didn't need to come back to UConn at all this year. He tested the waters, explored the pro options. No one could have blamed him if he went pro. Back-to-back national champion. But he does come back. And instead of using this player as a person that you prop up to celebrate a college basketball player that's at least going to be here for 4 years. He had a redshirt year, playing for 3. Instead of that, we are going to highlight someone who is more about flash and who has not done anything in the college game in one of the preseason All-Americans in Cooper Flagg, who may be a generational talent. We don't know. But let's be real. Flagg is going to be gone from college basketball in 10 months. There will be a blip on the radar screen. But Alex Karaban's contributions to college basketball will last a lifetime, no matter what happens with UConn this season. So that's what pisses me off about this even more. I'm probably more upset than Alex Karaban is. I'm probably more upset than Dan Hurley is, because it's so frustrating that we decide to just prop up guys who have no business being propped up versus a guy who's been here forever. Dan, tell me why I shouldn't be so pissed, or tell me why I'm warranted. Hold on, you're on mute. I want you to give me, I want your full thing. So here we go. Tell me why.
First and foremost, should we run down who the top 6 AP All-Americans are and just kind of give a brief overview to the audience?
Go ahead. Yeah, please.
So we've got Mark Sears. I don't have my notes in front of me. Mark Sears, Johnny Broome, Hunter Dickinson of Kansas, Cooper Flagg, and remind me the other 2.
Let's see. I'm pulling them up right now. Let's see. Johnny Broome. Bear with us, guys. Live podcasting, not really, but it is preseason All-Americans 2024.
Regardless,
sorry. RJ Davis, Mark Sears, Hunter Dickinson, Johnny Broome, and Cooper Flagg.
Got it. I actually have a different perspective than you do. I'm completely
and Caleb Love.
And Caleb Love of Arizona. So you want to talk about propping up the wrong guy? I don't even think it's Cooper Flagg. I think it's maybe one of the other guys. I think all 5 of those other guys are 5th-year seniors, half of which are transfer students. So, I mean, Cooper Flagg, you got to sell tickets. He's, the golden child right now. He's one of the best overall basketball recruits. you got to sell tickets. It's an entertainment product. I get it.
But this isn't about. But CBS is doing a preseason All-American team. This isn't about promoting a game on ESPN or Fox where you throw Cooper Flagg's face up there and people get excited. Or when Zion was there and he was gone in a year, or whoever. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, to me, that's it's no disrespect. I think that's irrelevant. Like, it's because to your point, you're right. Caleb Love, probably what, third or fourth year. Johnny Broom's a transfer. He's been at Auburn for multiple years. Hunter Dickinson's on his 20th year. RJ Davis is in his 5th year. So yes, they are promoting players who are seniors and juniors. But then to not give the 2-time national champion Alex Karaban his nod over the freshman who could be fantastic. He also, no disrespect, I don't want this to happen. I want him to have a good year. He could roll his ankle tomorrow and never play. Like, what are we doing? It's so stupid.
Karaban embodies kind of everything that you love about college basketball. You know, he tried out for the draft. He was probably a fringe second rounder, you know, maybe the top half of the second round if he did come out. Went through all the pre-draft stuff, comes back, and this is a guy that has already kind of made a living being snubbed by the voters in whether it's the Big East or other, you know, voting platforms for all conference, whatever. But comes back. He's undoubtedly, with him and Hassan Diarra, I'd say Karaban a little bit more so just because he's played more, is the leader of that team. He's leading the huddles in practice, in the games. He has taken Liam McNeely under his wing. You know, they square off in practice daily. So he embodies everything that you love about college basketball. Hurley sings his praises. He's the first person that Hurley hugged after, you know, when they're watching, when the confetti starts rolling down in the national championship game last year. He loves the kid. So he embodies everything that you want a college basketball player to be great at. He's an incredible student from what I've heard. So I totally get where you're coming from. Maybe he'll have the last laugh.
Yeah, no, I think he will. I mean, but I also feel like there's kind of like deeper meaning in this. And I also feel like, you know, we're just a podcast. We're not trying to save the world. But what bothers me the most about this is, to your point, Alex Karaban represents what college basketball should be about at this present time. I know that we're all about transfer. People are all about transfer portal and essentially free agency in a time where, you know, all these guys are writing their articles. Like, you know, I'm thinking about CBS right now, Greg Parrish and Matt Norlander, all these guys waxing poetic about Tony Bennett and, he left because of the changing landscape of college basketball. All that may be true. And I've heard wonderful things about Tony Bennett. But you know what Tony Bennett would be pissed about? A guy like Alex Karaban not being on the preseason All-American and multiple transfers and Cooper Flagg being on, because that doesn't embody what he thought college basketball was and one of the reasons why he retired. So it's really frustrating to me that we can talk a big game on one side and then we do the voting and we do this on the other.
He's the exact opposite of what at least half of these guys on this list are. All these 100%. All the guys on this list are likely getting drafted, whether it's first or second round in the NBA draft next year, and probably would have got drafted in this past year's draft. They stay home to, you know, a lot of people, you're seeing so many 4th and 5th year guys staying in the college basketball game, football, to hedge against not knowing maybe what their draft stock is or going to the league and risk not getting drafted and making millions in the NBA. So you come back, you know, you take the NIL bag and, you know, it's been well publicized. Hunter Dickinson is one of the most expensive guys in the history of college basketball NIL. Caleb Love transfer, I'm sure he's getting paid well, but there's nothing wrong with that. Karaban is the complete opposite. He stays home, comes back to college basketball, and you know, he would have got drafted. He would be making millions right now, whether he makes an NBA roster or not. All 4 of those guys they got drafted from UConn did. So, you know, you'd like to think he'd be on an NBA roster, which starts tomorrow, but comes back to school. So again, you know, we might be highlighting the wrong thing. So you can't talk out at 2 sides of your mouth with regard to that. So I agree.
Yeah. I mean, it's a frustrating part of, and I'll just be honest, it's always been a frustrating part of being a UConn fan is I don't feel like even when they win championships and even when they're on the top of the sport, they don't get the recognition that they deserve. And I think it's part of the reason why Dan Hurley is so vocal about all of this. You know, keeping kind of like notes of who's talking the most about what UConn can't do instead of what we did and what is on the horizon. And I think that's the biggest thing that's the most frustrating part about this, because you're right, if you look at the guys who did make the list, you have senior, junior, senior. It's not like it's just
all
a bunch of like
seniors.
It's not just like a bunch of like flash in the pan freshmen from a great class. So I mean, you could argue that Caleb Love doesn't belong there because, I mean, let's be honest, Caleb Love is a volume shooter for Arizona. He was a volume shooter for North Carolina. I don't think he may have been the Pac-12 Player of the Year. Now he's in the Big 12. I doubt he's
as well.
As inefficient as you could be.
Karaban, I think at the end of last year, Cam Spencer was the only 50, 40, 90 guy in college basketball.
Yep.
Dropped
Alex
off
was close.
And Alex was right there when the season closed. So.
But I was going to say to make a point to kind of draw a parallel with Caleb Love. If you ask any college basketball coach, even the Tommy Lloyd at Arizona, who would you rather have right now, Alex Karaban or Caleb Love? And every single one of them is picking Alex Karaban because he affects winning so much more than someone like Caleb Love, who's been to a Final Four, who's hit big shots and was been to a title game. But guess what he hasn't done? Win a title. And Alex has won too. So again, frustrating moment yesterday, especially listening to it on a North Carolina radio station and having to hear people talk about Cooper Flagg, and then Caleb Love, who is also a former North Carolina player, and RJ Davis, a North Carolina player, and Mark Sears, Alabama. Of the six on this list, the most deserving I feel like is Mark Sears. I think
been to a Final Four.
Been to a Final Four. I think Hunter Dickinson, I'll give it to him just because, again, the guy's been around.
He's a great
forever.
college player. He's a great college player.
He's also probably not going to be an NBA player, as much as people want to say he may.
7-1 skilled. He's pretty efficient in college, but he'll get drafted. He'll play in the league. How long? Who knows? But Kansas will be there in the end. They'll be in the tournament. They've got a really good squad, and he's their leader. So the
most talented guy on this list is Johnny Broome. He is the prototypical NBA player.
Yep.
Forget Cooper Flagg. 6'10", 240 pounds. It can be a stretch three and play a little on the interior. So, but anyway, that's my frustration, and I feel like it's indicative, and it's also one of the reasons why Dan Hurley is always so up in arms going forward. So when we return, another super weird, unprovoked attack, almost random attack on Dan Hurley that we saw online last night. We're going to get you up to date on that coming up after this. Hey, UConn fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pooled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change with the Roy app. You can direct your support to athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go to that specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free. And if the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm supporting Nick Evers. I just pitched in $100, and I'd love for you to join me on this. Even $10 makes a difference. Let's show Nick the love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway of 2 tickets to go to any game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code Locked On, and you're entered. Already on Roy, any contribution to any athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically, so no purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Download the Roy app now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram and Facebook and X at Roy. Roy, support the players, change the game. All right, you're back on Locked On UConn with Dan Meehan and myself. Every Tuesday, Thursday, we are doing this as a two-man show. Really appreciate Dan's support on this. So I say we as in you and I and all of UConn Nation, we're kind of stunned by this guy, Brett Ledbetter, who's a creator of something called What Drives Winning. His title is he's a consultant, author, and speaker who works with high performers in business, education, and sports. He also co-founded this What Drives Winning mentality, whatever. And so For those of you who are like, what the hell are you guys talking about? I'm going to play you a clip. We're going to play it all the way through, but we're also going to pause it a few times to comment, and you'll get an idea of what we're talking about. So hold on.
This is when College Game Day went there. Look at the first row. Look at the artificial stimulant. Look at the cues that you're being shown every single day, that you are important. It is easy to consume them. So let's fast forward to the end of the year. This is moments after winning the national championship. Take a listen.
Coach Dan.
And I'm going to pause this for a second because I want to set this up. So the title of this tweet or X post was "How You Know You're Drunk on Ego." So just want to let people know that this is what we're watching right now. He is trying to make a parallel that, you know, they had this thing with game day, and I don't know what the artificial stimulant is. I don't really care. It was really, again, the guy's voice already bothers me. But then we're gonna talk about now we're back to they just won their second straight national championship. Listen.
Hurley, it's obvious to me you love the view from up here 2 years in a row.
Yeah, man. Kind of getting used to this up here, and the confetti, the trophy. Number 6, baby! Number 6! Jersey City!
Okay, so what's the significance? Number 6 is what? How many championships UConn has won? What's the significance of Jersey City? That's where he's from. That's not where the school is. Who's he making it about? Himself. Who is he not making it about? The team.
Okay. Let's pause here for a second.
My ears are bleeding.
This is such an important point right here. Something that he glossed over here. This guy, Brett, or whatever the hell his name is. 6 is the key number here. How many championships, Dan, has Dan Hurley won at his time at UConn?
2.
Right. And so that means he didn't say, number 2, baby, back to back. He decided to go 6 because that's the total that people that came before him that he respects, like Jim Calhoun and Kevin Ollie, did.
Giving a nod to his predecessors.
Giving a nod to his predecessors before he got here. And then he immediately goes to Jersey City because it's been well documented how proud of where he's from. Like anybody would be. So again, we're gonna keep going with this because it's almost done, and I just because it gets more ridiculous.
Now, the question you have to ask yourself is, does the system attract or create this? Or both? And how do we not lose ourselves inside that system? So I want to show you something. This is something very similar to what you just saw. This is Steve Kerr, right after they won the NBA Finals.
Steve Kerr, known man of God. Just kidding.
Listen.
4 championships, Steve, in the last 8 seasons with the same core guys. What does that say about this group?
Well, number one, it says that the guy who put together this group did an amazing job, and I like Bob Myers to be recognized. He never gets enough credit. Bob.
So when she hands him a drink to make it about himself, what does he do? He passes it to someone else.
I'm also going to stop here because real quick thing in case, and Dan, I'm sure you know this. College is not the NBA. Do you know who the architect is of this team? It's also Dan Hurley. Does he have help? How many times have you heard him talk about we have the best organization in basketball? Apparently, this man has not heard him say that, unfortunately for him. And so to pigeonhole him into this kind of, me guy is, again, a very unprovoked attack. We'll continue.
Now, the GM who put it together comes up.
Bob, it's not easy. It's not easy to repeat success, to keep everyone happy, to keep the gang together. Just how have you been able to do that with this team?
Well, you didn't ask this, but I want to thank all our wives and kids. It is not easy supporting us all year long.
What's he do? He passes the drink. She goes back to Steve.
And I have one more for you, Steve. This is now your 9th ring. 9th ring, 5 as a player, 4 now as a coach. These journeys are always imperfectly perfect. Where do you rank this journey?
This might be the most unlikely one of all, but I've just been blessed. I hang around superstars. If you hang around superstars, good things happen. And that guy Curry, wherever he is right there. Go talk to him. He's the reason for all this.
So again, he passes the drink to NBA Finals MVP, Steph Curry. I want you to try and find Steve in this picture. Where is he? If you want to walk a different path, it takes a lot of unlearning.
Okay, let's get us centered here. That's the clip in its entirety. We obviously made some comments in between them. Before I get your thoughts, which I already know which they are, Dan, for the most part, I will say that the most interesting part about all of this is how it was unprovoked to Dan Hurley. 2, if you do a little bit of not a deep dive, because I didn't want to spend that much time on it, but if you get an idea of who follows this guy, because he's worked with some very well-respected coaches and consultants. The coaches we know, Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, Tom Izzo, et cetera, and our own Gino Auriemma has literally sat and done it. You can go on this guy's Twitter, what drives winning, and watch clips of Gino talking to him. So I'd be curious to know why he chose Dan Hurley. And what's interesting to me about all of it is I think Dan would actually look at this as kind of a net positive because he's so introspective, and he would actually go, you know what? Even though I don't like the delivery of this, that it kind of makes me look like a not so good guy, if you will, that I'm about ego. He probably would look at this and go, yeah, I probably have some learning to do. But then he would probably sit back and go, you know what? Nah, I recognize the team that I have. I recognize my players. I give all these guys their flowers. And in that moment, it was warranted because we're doing something, and I'm the head of something that is one of the, if not the best achievement of a modern day college basketball team in the history of men's college basketball. So is he supposed to fake how he feels? That's my biggest thing here, Dan, is I don't like fake humility. And I'm not saying Steve Kerr is doing that or Bob Myers or any of the other people on the clip, but there's a part of that in learning media where you kind of have to go, well, whether it's you're thinking you're God or you're thinking your agent or you're thinking your wife or your kids. The reason why Dan Hurley resonates so much with me and with others in this fan base is because he's authentically him. He is the man that we all like. He's like our friend. Like we look at him and go,
he's about as normal of a coach, of a high profile coach as you can get.
He's
relatable. He's open. He's easy to get to. He answers all the questions. I hate that we have to give this guy clicks. That's what he's looking for. I don't even know if you say he's interviewed some high profile guys. So kudos to him. But do we even know if he was talking to anybody in that actor studio? I don't know.
No, I don't think
I heard an echo.
I don't think that. Yeah, there probably wasn't. It probably wasn't that big of an audience. And for people that don't know this, I joked around about this last night on Twitter that this guy is doing a pseudo TED Talk, because the reality is with TED Talks is you can just if anybody in the audience wants to do a TED Talk, you can call them and they'll let you do it. It's not there's no criteria. You might have to pitch them on the idea and make sure it's not crazy. But there's no one calling people and being like, you know what, I loved your book, you should do a TED Talk. That doesn't happen.
Sure.
So
yeah, I mean, listen, if we have to talk about it, we will. But I think I hate that Steve Kerr. He's actually one of my, say what you want about him. I think a lot of people drew some criticism from him, the way he treated the Jason Tatum situation in the Olympics. But
sure.
I think Steve Kerr is a fantastic coach, leader of men. You don't win 4 NBA titles by accident. He's obviously good at his job. I hate that he had to get dragged into this. I'm sure he'll roll his eyes like many others will. I don't even know if Dan Hurley will give this guy the benefit of watching this clip like he wants him to. But if there's something to take from it, billboard material again, I guess. Another thing, to just mental note to throw on the back burner and remember later, if you want to bring up the receipts. if they end up having a good season and reach all of their goals. But yeah, that's all I got to say about it, I guess.
Yeah, I really just wanted people in the audience to know, because not everybody is on Twitter
Sure.
or social media, that, like, maybe they're YouTube folks, or maybe there's people that watch the audio version, to kind of know what's going on and that kind of surrounds the UConn program. And I just, again, I really do feel like, for all the people that took shots at him, myself included, after like thinking about it the night, like I really do feel like, knowing Dan Hurley, he's probably looking at this, if he does end up seeing it, going, again, like, even kind of getting some positive takeaways from it. Because that's the thing that I love about Dan, is, like, as much of a psycho as he is, like, he has that little weirdo room that everyone talks about, where he, like, does his meditations and he prays and all that stuff. And honestly, man, like, I think he's one of the most self-aware, relatable people that is in a high profile position. So
I think he'll laugh it off.
Yeah, laugh it off, look at it and go, all right, man. Like, it's, if you need that for engagement, I feel you. But I would love to know, knowing that Gino's been on the show, on this guy's, chair, if you will.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that.
Would love to know what Dan thinks about that. Like, if Dan would call Gino, and if he sees this and goes, hey man, what's up with your boy? Why is he taking shots at me? That's what I would want to know. Like,
if this guy wanted clicks, he's gonna get them. We're a little less than 2 weeks out from the start of the season. I think people are getting antsy and bored, and you're going to get some weird stuff like this every once in a while. So kudos to him.
Sure.
If he wanted clicks, he'll get them. If he wants to sit down with Dan Hurley, I don't know if that's going to happen.
We'll see. All right, coming up, the calm before the storm. How is Dan and myself and the rest of UConn Nation dealing with the less than 2 weeks from the start of college basketball season? Coming up after this. What's up, NFL fans? You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So whether you're in the middle of a game, or you have these picks that you already are set up for, doesn't matter. You can do the live play-by-play literally on the app. It's actually a pretty cool feature. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guarantee if you haven't already created an account. When you bet your first $5 bet, you get those $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com to get started. And you're back on Locked On UConn. Short segment to end the day here with Dan Meehan. All right, Dan, we've had some really cool stuff already this year. We got a great recruiting class. We have Braylon Mullins. His announcement is tomorrow. Likely going to be to UConn. I'll be doing a live show at 6:00 with Locked On Hoosiers to kind of see who wins the prize there. But what people really want to know is, what are you doing to kind of count down the days until November 6th and the start of UConn Husky basketball?
I'm really excited for the season. Like many others, I've been glued to Twitter waiting for some of these last-minute recruiting announcements. Super excited for the one tomorrow. As you and many others know, I started the Exit 68 venture, which has been received really well. So we got some really cool stuff rolling out for the season, and then as the season plays on, we'll have some more really fun apparel items that we'll be releasing. I'm excited for the women's team, man. Obviously the men were on the quest to three-peat, but I'm really excited to see how that women's team does. They're healthy now. The first night was super fun. And yeah, I'm just I forget the last year that we won both. Was it
2014?
14? Okay. Yeah,
right.
every 10 years, right?
That's right.
So I guess last year would have been the 10th. But if they can do it again and double down on, being the basketball capital of the world, any, displeasure that Dan Hurley and the others at UConn might have for not getting the notoriety, if they win both this year, they'll get all of it. So we'll see. I'm excited for the season. I'm ready to go to the first game. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Outside of the basketball season, what do you want to see? Because I know you're a notorious Yankee hater. What do you want to see from this? What do you want to see from this World Series? Because I think a portion of our audience are obviously Yankee fans, and I am one too. I'm so sorry to hear. Do you know how many times I've worn I remember wearing like a Giants hat, and someone would put in my comments, "Why are you wearing a Giants hat in a UConn podcast?" And I was like, "Because I'm from Connecticut. And there are people from
stuck in the middle
Connecticut that like the Giants. What's wrong with you?"
Or the highway between Boston and New York.
That's right. And I'm right in the middle. Where I'm from is Meriden is literally the line of demarcation between whether you are a Yankee or Red Sox, Giants, Patriots, etc. And I have some weirdos in my family who are Giants fans and Red Sox fans. So that happens too.
Not allowed.
It's so weird.
Not allowed.
It is allowed. In Connecticut, it's allowed, and it's weird. Jets, freaking,
Jets
whatever,
Celtics.
like Jets, Jets, Celtics, like all these weird combinations. What are your plans for the World Series? Are you going to really be glued to it, or are you kind of like, I don't really care?
Huge baseball fan. I lived in LA for 12 years. I watched the Red Sox win it at Dodger Stadium in 2018, which is one of the best sports moments I've ever had as a viewer and fan. Played baseball, my entire, childhood growing up. This is a really fun one. Star-studded on both sides. Yankees need probably a little bit more from Judge. I think if they're going to compete in the series, the pitching has been great, but I just think the Dodgers, the way they dismantled the Mets, they're loaded, and they're still facing some injuries. They're not even fully healthy, and they're doing this. So, listen, I've been incredibly fortunate as a sports fan, probably as fortunate as you can be. Watch the Patriots and Tom Brady and Belichick win 6 Super Bowls. I don't need to comment on that team today. That's another story, but great time watching that team. Every time the Red Sox, got there. They've got 4 in the last 25, 30 years. Every time they got to the end, they won. It was similar to UConn in that regard. When they get to the, deep in the tournament, they close. So I've watched you guys squirm for 15 years. This is actually a likable Yankees team, as likable as a Yankees team can be from a Red Sox fan. But as a Sox fan who's watched the Red Sox ownership just kind of crumble the last few years, who knows what they're incentivizing these days, whether it's money or getting enough funding to go buy the next NBA team in Las Vegas. I don't know. A Yankees championship might wake up the Red Sox ownership. So in that regard, I'm hoping you guys win, but I'm hoping this is a great epic 7-game series and you guys get your hearts ripped out in game 7 in Los Angeles.
Well, I appreciate that. I think that there's a good chance that the Yankees do win this series because, as you mentioned, they're coming in a little less banged up, and
they're hot. They're hot at the right time.
Some guys are. There's still some dudes that are struggling, but
look at it this way: you've gotten this far with your arguably best player being non-existent thus far throughout the playoffs. So
I'll give you a hot take. I'll give you a hot take right now.
Judge can get. So look at it that way. You might be okay.
Even though Aaron Judge has had a phenomenal season, with batting almost 330 with 58 home runs, all that stuff. I've always considered Juan Soto their best player.
Sure.
He just if we're making a parallel to UConn, like we should, he's the Alex Karaban of that team, where he affects winning in so many different ways. Like,
he was like Trout in his prime. The guy is slump proof. He doesn't go into slumps. Yeah. He's that good.
The idea is, in particular, when it comes to facing difficult pitching, because I've said this as a Yankee fan, that Aaron Judge feasts on mediocre pitching because of his ability to just put the ball out anywhere. And
you can strike him out. You can't strike out Soto.
You just can't do it. He is not in a clutch situation. Like if you ever, I'm not giving any love to. I think John Boy does an amazing job for Yankee fans. He does those breakdowns. Do yourself a favor, if you haven't seen it, go watch his breakdown of Juan Soto's at bat. It's it's one of the best 5 minutes of your life if you're a Yankee fan, because it's one of the best at bats you'll ever see. Like
awesome.
How he was able to make adjustments to.
It reminded me of the one Bryce Harper had 2 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
When he deposited the 99-mile-an-hour fastball in the outer half to right center. Just he worked that at bat so well. You never felt like the pitcher was going to win.
Right.
The Soto at bat was incredible. The guy was licking his chops the entire time.
And even as a Yankee fan, that's just something that Judge doesn't possess right now. Maybe he gets that maybe that's not possible for him to possess in the future. I don't know. But I know one thing before we go: if the Yankees win this World Series and Juan Soto wins the MVP, if they don't sign him, I don't even know what I'm going to do.
I tell you one guy in New York who will do everything in his power to sign him. That's Steve Cohen across town. So Godspeed, my friend.
I can't let that happen. So whether you're a Yankee fan, Red Sox fan, Mets, whatever,
back up the Brinks truck. Give that guy 600, 700 million, whatever it takes.
That's right.
He's worth it. He's only 25. He's 25, 26 in a week, I think. You're getting that guy. It's simply the guys that got paid a decade ago got paid for previous results when they were 30. He's 26 in his prime with 10 years of runway. Give that guy it's everything he wants and more.
Absolutely. Well, whether you are here because obviously you're a UConn fan, and if you're one of the UConn fans of the many persuasions, I've always said that UConn is the church that everyone comes to congregate, whether you're a Yankee, Red Sox, Jet, Giant, Met, Phillies, whatever, even the Phillies. You can be a UConn fan, and that's what we love about it. So listen, this has been another episode of Locked On UConn. For Dan Meehan, I'm Mark Zanetto, asking you to stay locked on, stay connected, make sure that toughness meter is always rising. And as always, go Huskies. Go Blue.